I never thought silence could hurt more than words. For 27 days, my wife, Emma, barely acknowledged me. She wasn't angry, at least not openly. She just moved around me like I was invisible. Meals at the table turned into quick snacks eaten alone in different rooms. Conversations turned into clipped responses like, "I'm fine," or "I'm busy." At first, I tried to break the ice with jokes, little stories from work, even planning a weekend trip. Nothing worked. She nodded politely, but her eyes seemed far away. I replayed every moment leading up to this coldness. Had I said something wrong? Forgotten something important? Was it stress? Work? Or, was it me? By the second week, I felt like a guest in my own home. The air between us grew heavier each day. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to confront her directly. Part of me was afraid of the answer. But by day 27, I knew I couldn't live like a ghost in my own marriage anymore. I needed to do something different, something that spoke louder than words. That's when I came up with the idea. On day 30, I would leave flowers with a note. Not just an apology, not just words, but something that might remind her of who we once were. Day 28 felt like the longest day of my life. I watched Emma sit at the kitchen table with her coffee, scrolling through her phone, not once looking in my direction. I wanted to reach out, but I held back. I didn't want to push her further away. That night, lying awake in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling. My mind spun with questions. Should I write something short and simple on the note? Or pour my heart into it? Would she even care? By day 29, I bought the flowers, white lilies, her favorite. The smell alone reminded me of our wedding day. As I carried them out of the shop, my chest tightened with both fear and hope. I sat in the car for nearly an hour, staring at the blank card that came with the bouquet. My hands trembled as I held the pen. Every draft I thought of sounded either too desperate or too cold. Finally, I wrote the words that had been trapped inside me for weeks. Asterisk, even in your silence, I still hear you. I miss us. If there's a way back, I'll take it, no matter how hard the road, asterisk. I tucked the note into the flowers. Tomorrow, day 30, I would place them where she couldn't miss them. It was all or nothing. Day 30 arrived, and my heart pounded from the moment I opened my eyes. Emma was already up, moving around the house in the same quiet rhythm she had kept for weeks. I carried the flowers carefully, hiding them behind my back as I walked into the kitchen. She was standing by the sink, rinsing a glass, when I gently placed the bouquet on the counter. Her hands froze mid-motion. The white lilies almost glowed against the dull gray of the morning light. For the first time in nearly a month, she looked directly at me. Her eyes softened for just a second, then flickered with something unreadable. She reached for the small envelope tucked among the stems. I watched her fingers unfold the note. Her lips parted as she read the words, but she didn't say anything. She just stood there, staring at the paper, her eyes glistening. The silence stretched, and I felt my chest tighten, waiting for some sign, any sign. Then, quietly, she whispered, asterisk, why now? Asterisk. Her voice was fragile, filled with the weight of questions I hadn't yet understood. Her question hung in the air like a blade, asterisk, why now? Asterisk. I swallowed hard, unsure if my words could bridge the chasm between us. Because I was afraid, I admitted. Afraid I'd lose you completely if I pushed too hard. But I can't stay silent anymore. I miss you, Emma. I miss us. She lowered her gaze, her thumb brushing over the edge of the note. For the first time in weeks, I saw her defenses falter. Her shoulders dropped as if the weight she'd been carrying had finally become too heavy. You don't even know why I shut you out, she murmured, her voice trembling. You didn't even ask. Her words cut deep because she was right. I had noticed the distance but avoided the hard questions, terrified of what I might hear. You're right, I whispered. I should have asked. I should have fought harder to understand. I just thought, maybe you needed space. And I gave you so much space, I lost you in it. Emma blinked back tears, clutching the flowers to her chest. For the first time in 27 days, there was something in her eyes that wasn't anger or indifference. It was pain. And maybe, the beginning of hope. Emma set the flowers down gently, as if they were fragile glass. She leaned against the counter, her arms crossing over her chest like she was trying to hold herself together. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she said softly. I felt invisible too. Like everything we used to share, everything we built together, was slipping through our fingers. And I didn't know how to reach you. Her words hit me harder than any silence ever could. All this time, I thought she was shutting me out. But in reality, she was waiting for me to notice. I took a cautious step closer. Emma, I thought giving you space was helping. I didn't realize it was making you feel even more alone. She nodded, her eyes shimmering. I kept waiting for you to fight for us. But when the days kept passing, I thought maybe you didn't want to anymore. The room felt unbearably heavy with all the things left unsaid. I wanted to reach for her, but I hesitated. Instead, I let my voice carry what my hands couldn't. I do want to. More than anything. That's why I wrote that note. Because I finally understood, if I don't fight now, I might lose you forever. Her lip quivered, and for a moment I thought she might turn away again. But instead, she whispered, then show me. Her words, then show me, echoed in my chest like a challenge and a plea at the same time. I stepped closer, closing the distance that had felt like a canyon for nearly a month. My voice was steady, but my heart raced. Tell me how. Tell me what you need, and I'll do it. Emma shook her head slowly, her eyes filled with both hurt and hope. It's not about grand gestures. It's about presence. I needed you to notice when I was breaking, to listen without fixing, to sit with me when I felt alone. But instead, you drifted. We both did. Her honesty pierced me, but it also gave me direction. I finally understood that the flowers and note were only the beginning. What she wanted wasn't one moment, it was consistency. I hear you now, I said quietly. And I promise, from this moment, I'll be here, not just in the same house, but with you. Every day. For the first time, she let out a shaky laugh, almost disbelieving. It's been 27 days of silence. I don't know if words are enough anymore. I took her hand carefully, waiting to see if she would pull away. She didn't. Her fingers trembled in mine, but she held on. Then let me prove it, one day at a time, I whispered. Emma's eyes finally softened, and though tears still lingered, I saw the faintest spark of the woman I fell in love with. Emma's hand in mine felt like the first sign of life after a long winter. I didn't want to let go. She looked at me carefully, her voice quieter now. Do you remember when we first got married? We promised we'd never let silence become our answer. I nodded, guilt tightening in my chest. I broke that promise. I thought silence was safer than saying the wrong thing. But I see now, it only made things worse. She exhaled slowly, her shoulders easing just a little. All I wanted was to feel seen. Not as your roommate, not as someone passing through the same house. As your partner. As your wife. I squeezed her hand gently. You are. You always have been. I just let my fear blind me to what you were really asking for. The room grew still, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't a wall between us, it was a moment hanging in balance. Emma finally whispered, then let's see if you can keep that promise this time. Her words weren't forgiveness yet, but they weren't rejection either. They were an opening. A chance. And I knew I wouldn't waste it. That night felt different. The house wasn't filled with the heavy silence I had grown used to, it was fragile, but lighter, as if something had shifted. Emma didn't retreat to another room like she had so many nights before. Instead, she sat on the couch with a blanket over her knees, staring at the TV without really watching. I joined her, not too close, but not across the room either. For a while, we said nothing. But it wasn't the same silence. This time, it felt like we were both searching for a way back. Finally, I spoke. "Do you remember our first apartment? That tiny one-bedroom with the leaky faucet?" Her lips curved just slightly. "And the radiator that never worked. We wore hoodies to bed for 2 winters." We both laughed softly, our first shared laugh in almost a month. It wasn't loud, but it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I miss that," I admitted. "Not the cold, not the broken pipes. Just, us. How we used to talk about everything and nothing until we fell asleep." Emma turned her head toward me, her expression softer than it had been in weeks. "So do I." The words weren't a solution, but they were a thread. And I knew if we held on to that thread, we could start weaving our way back together. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel lonely. Emma was still asleep, her hair spilling across the pillow. For a moment, I just watched her, grateful that she was still here, still willing to try. I went downstairs and brewed her favorite coffee, light roast with just a hint of vanilla. I placed the mug on the kitchen table where she always sat. It wasn't flowers this time. It was something smaller, quieter, but it carried the same message: "I see you." When she walked in, she paused at the sight of the cup. She glanced at me, then at the steam rising from the coffee. "You remembered," she whispered. "I never forgot," I said. "I just stopped showing it. That was my mistake." She picked up the mug, wrapping her hands around it like it was a shield and a comfort at once. "It's not about coffee," she said softly. "It's about the fact that you thought of me before yourself." I nodded. "And I'll keep doing that. Every day, if that's what it takes." Her eyes met mine, searching, testing if my words were real. After a long pause, she finally said, "Then maybe this is the start of us again." The crack in the wall between us grew wider, and for the first time, I believed we could find our way through. Day 31 felt like a new chapter. Not perfect, not healed, but new. Emma and I decided to take a walk that evening, something we hadn't done together in months. The late summer air was warm, and the quiet streets gave us space to breathe. At first, we walked side by side in silence, but it wasn't the cold silence anymore, it was thoughtful, almost gentle. She finally broke it. "I kept wondering if you noticed me fading." I stopped walking, turning to face her. "I did notice. But I thought it was temporary. I told myself you just needed time. And instead of reaching for you, I waited. That was my biggest mistake." Her eyes softened, though doubt still lingered. "So what's different now?" I took a deep breath. "Now I know waiting doesn't save love, actions do. I don't want to just share a house with you. I want to share everything again, the little moments, the laughter, even the arguments. Because losing your voice in my life was worse than anything you could have said." Emma looked down, then back up at me. For the first time, she slipped her hand into mine willingly. "If we do this, if we try again, it has to be both of us, not just one person fighting." I squeezed her hand gently. "Then let's fight together." And in that quiet street, for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were finally walking toward each other, not away. The days that followed felt fragile, like we were walking on glass, but there was progress. Small things, Emma leaving her book open on the couch instead of retreating to the bedroom, me putting my phone down when she spoke, began to stitch us back together. One evening, while making dinner, I caught her humming softly to herself. It was a simple sound, but it nearly brought me to tears. For weeks, the house had been silent, and now it was coming alive again. Over dinner, she finally spoke what had been weighing on her. I was scared, you know. Scared that if I said how lonely I felt, you'd dismiss it. Or worse, you'd agree with me. I reached across the table, my hand covering hers. Emma, I'll never dismiss your feelings again. If you're hurting, I want to carry it with you. Not let you carry it alone. Her eyes glistened as she gave a small nod. That's all I needed to hear. Not solutions. Just, that you're with me. It struck me then, marriage wasn't about fixing every crack instantly. It was about standing together even when the cracks showed. That night, as we cleared the table side by side, Emma slipped her arm around my waist for the first time in over a month. It was simple, unspoken, but it meant everything. By day 35, our home felt different. There was still tension sometimes, still moments when words caught in our throats, but the icy wall between us was gone. One evening, Emma pulled out an old photo album from the shelf. She set it on the coffee table and sat beside me. Do you remember this? She asked, pointing to a picture of us on our honeymoon, laughing, sunburned, and holding hands like we never wanted to let go. I smiled, my chest aching with both nostalgia and regret. I remember how I couldn't believe you chose me. I still can't. She looked at me, her eyes softening. Then show me why you believed I did. We flipped through the pages together, each photo reminding us of a chapter when love felt effortless. And with each memory, I realized something: love doesn't stay effortless forever. It asks for effort. For attention. For presence. Closing the album, Emma leaned her head against my shoulder. I don't need flowers every day. I don't need perfect words. I just need you, really here, really with me. I wrapped my arm around her and whispered, you have me. Always. It wasn't a grand reconciliation. It was quieter than that. But sometimes the quietest moments are the ones that last. Weeks passed, and little by little, the rhythm of our life returned. Not the same as before, different, stronger in some ways, more cautious in others. Emma began to smile more, and I found myself laughing again, not because I forced it but because the weight in my chest was lifting. We cooked dinner together, took evening walks, and even argued once or twice, but this time, the arguments ended with understanding instead of silence. One night, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emma turned to me and said, do you realize it's been over a month since the flowers? I nodded, the memory still sharp in my mind. The day I almost lost you. She reached for my hand, threading her fingers through mine. The day you reminded me why I chose you in the first place. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. I'll never let us slip into silence again. Not after what we've been through. Emma smiled faintly, resting her head against my shoulder. Then don't. Because now I know, you're willing to fight for us. And so am I. In that quiet moment, with her hand in mine and the fading light painting the sky, I realized something simple but powerful: love doesn't end in silence. It begins again when two people choose to speak, to listen, and to hold on, even when it hurts. And we had chosen. The final turning point came on a rainy Sunday afternoon. The kind of day when the world feels heavy and gray. Emma and I were cleaning up the living room when she suddenly stopped, holding the faded note I had written weeks ago. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. This was the first time I believed you still saw me. I walked over, gently taking the note from her hand. I'll never stop seeing you, Emma. Not just as my wife, but as my partner, my friend, the person I'd choose every single day. She leaned into me, her voice trembling. I was so afraid we were gone. But now, I believe we're stronger than we were before. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly as the rain tapped against the windows. For the first time in what felt like forever, the silence between us wasn't cold, it was comforting. The flowers had started it, but it wasn't the lilies that changed everything. It was the choice to fight, to listen, and to love again. As we stood there, wrapped in each other, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one built not on perfection, but on presence. And that was enough. More than enough. Months later, looking back on those 30 painful days, I realized something I never wanted to forget: silence had nearly destroyed us, but love had rebuilt us. Emma and I weren't the same couple we had been before. We were different, more fragile in some ways, but stronger in others. We had learned that love isn't about avoiding pain, it's about facing it together. One evening, as we sat at the table eating dinner, Emma reached across and squeezed my hand. "You know," she said softly, "those flowers, they didn't just remind me of who we were. They showed me who you're willing to be." I smiled, my throat tight. "And I'll keep showing you, every single day." She leaned closer, her eyes shining. "Then this time, I believe you." In that moment, I understood the truth: it wasn't the flowers, or the note, or even the words that changed everything. It was the choice we made, to stop living like strangers and start fighting for each other again. Love hadn't ended. It had begun again, stronger than before. And this time, I knew we wouldn't let silence win.